Yes, y'all, that's right, infidels. I'm not banned from Canada, you are! And soon we're taking over the 51st state. The bastard son of Castro will be deposed, and hacker Hameen and Trump will reign supreme. All of your little drones, your UFOs, all of that means nothing. Your Christ Mass is canceled, your presence destroyed. So hear me now, morons. Report to the locker room to get your heat here. HMGChannelattitude.com, the Friday Locker Room, the bitch who stole Christmas. YOLO! So nice. That's my favorite Christmas carol right there. I know I can't get it year round, Christmas whenever. In July and September. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and glad to be back. I've been uber busy, obviously, for the holiday season here at Ravens Joint. And yeah, well, oh yeah. Yeah, light it up. But hopefully you guys are prepared for the family time ahead, and don't let the stress get to you too much. It's all just concocted consumerism, and really what it comes down to at the end of the day, make some moments with the people you care about or that you don't get to see too often if you get to be around them. And safe travels, because it's fucking crazy out there with road rage and airport rage and all kinds of rage. But I got the rage in the cage himself. It's MSG in the place to be, hair down, ready to go. Santa's on his way. Got his milk and cookies out. What's good, buddy?
Well, some people spend a lifetime for a moment like this. I'm doing good. Back here, Friday Locker Room, as we head into the holiday weekend. Christmas is on the horizon, which means it's going to, we got Christmas tree buds sales going on, I'm assuming, all weekend.
Oh, yeah, all kinds of trees, man. It was insane. Thankfully, my vault mistress, I call her Sunshine Dimebag, but she she was absolutely killing it, along with my biz partner JD Love, because I think we got 12 deliveries in the last 48 hours from vendors. And the first 7 came within 5 minutes of each other. It was just a revolving door. So product is just stacking up around you in the vault. And it's so all that has to be entered, and any new product has to be created. It's a very time consuming and data sensitive process, because everything has to be measured to the gram, because you're only allotted X amount per day that you can purchase. And we have to send reports to Office of Cannabis Management every month on, our full product of where it's from seed to sale is what they say. So we're at the sale end of it. So our numbers better track with all the numbers that came before it, So it's very meticulous process, but it's always fun to be open up these bins and it's a treasure chest of weed, new weed, interesting weed products. So if you're a cannabis enthusiast, it's always a little bit of a buzz, but a rush, I guess. What a rush.
What a rush.
It's a good time, man, for sure. Piers Austin's in the house from down under. Good day, mate. Good to see you, pal. Hope everything's well with the Piers Austin Network. A lot of great content, you guys, if you're looking for something to kill the holiday time. He's got so many great shows, a great catalog and library over there as well. William Alessia's in the house from the Hameen Media Group, Scotty Woodford in Cold-Blooded, and Bobo straight from the Blue Lodge in an undisclosed location, getting ready for his Saturnalia celebrations. He's in the house as well. So good morning to you guys. I wanted to say something a little bit heavier. I know we kick off the way we usually do, but I just wanted to get this out of the way, Maddie, real quick.
Sure.
One of our great listeners, who will remain completely anonymous, I haven't really talked to the producers about this, was going through something pretty serious personally, and was doing harm to themselves, and reached out kind of as a last bastion, that I was online, and went and got themselves the help that they needed, to know that they're a big part of what we do, and that we're here for them as much as they're here for us. And I know this time is very stressful for a lot of people during the holidays. And it can, if you give into those emotions or addictions or anything that you're going through, they can lead you down a dark path. I understand that. But that's just your own emotions controlling your decisions, and if you need help, we're here to help say yes and to push you in that direction. And I'm thankful for HMG community, especially when I see all these names in the chat who've been with us for so many years that it's hard sitting here in a chair thinking that you might be helping to save somebody's life. You know what I mean? Because we're connected, but we're not as connected as we're used to analog wise. But I just wanted to say to that person, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for making the right choice for yourself. Keep on that positive path. I know you can overcome what you have to rewrite your story to be the hero that you need to be. And sometimes when things are crashing down around us and it hurts inside, you know, to weather that storm may not be for right now. Your purpose, whatever you believe in or don't believe in, atheism, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, Anunnaki, I don't give a shit. But your purpose might be when you're a 70-year-old man or woman to be in the right place at the right time to pull a kid off the train tracks. And you don't know that that was your life's mission to get all the way to this point, to be there at that point, to grab somebody and be the catalyst to save a life yourself. So even when our own personal stuff has got a lot of weight on us, it can cripple a human. We're just humans at the end of the day, but it's what you allow that weight to control. I've been reading a lot of stoicism, and it helps a lot of people with addictions. It helps a lot of people in business. It helps a lot of people with emotional issues to know that those are just chemical reactions in our body, and we only give them that level of mastery over us that we allow it. And there's plenty of people who've been through this for hundreds of years before we ever existed, and it's well documented. But that doesn't mean in the here and now that somebody's not going through something heavy. But it makes me appreciate HMG for something more than I could even really imagine it have to be, you know what I mean, at this point. So but I just wanted to send a shout out to that person. Proud of you. Like, it's going to be a hard journey to where you got to go, but there's people here that are thinking about you and want the best for you. And that goes not for somebody who didn't reach out to me, who might be hearing this message right now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um,
No, I
that's
mean,
all I
I
wanted to say.
I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I mean, it's interesting, right? If we just take a look at the psychological aspect of how humans work, we can be told the same information from family and friends, but it may not as resonate with someone if it's coming from someone that might be a little bit more unbiased, right? Doesn't know the full picture
Yeah.
and can only comment on the information in which they're receiving. So, I've said it here, obviously, before I even went back to school, and I was just a regular listener who was going through his own trials and tribulations. And then one day, even though I'd been listening to Hameen for almost a year, just one phrase, took off in my mind or something like that. It was like, you said something along the lines of, life doesn't hand you anything. You can't just sit around waiting for it to, you know, hand you your goals, your wants, your desires. You have to actually go out there and attempt to make it happen. But at least if you go out there and attempt to make it happen, you're gonna have no regrets versus sitting in your rocking chair in your
Yeah.
80s wishing you had tried. So I appreciate that he reached out to you, and it sounds like he's going to continue to try and get better with whatever is challenging in his life
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, and I just think it's a bigger, you know, scope on humanity, what everybody's going through. And that's why I'm also trying to be less reactionary. Even who I would deem, I guess the kids say ops or enemies, or who I would view that way, because it's easy to put my story and judgment on them, but you never know what somebody else is going through at the same time. Nobody's really the evil maniacal bastard we can make them out to be in our minds. In a comic book way, everybody's a fallible human. So it's all right to know that and fuck shit up and be like, well, if I can't go any lower, that means I got to turn around and go back up the ladder. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Allah, man, your life's important, and you may not know the reason why right now, but to not live it is an injustice, and to take it will only destroy the people that you care about most, because now they are damaged forever from those types of things. So there's no positivity coming out of that final solution when you
No,
feel
I mean,
fed up.
I know we're talking nicely and stuff like that, and I'm not directing
Yeah.
this at this individual, but the reality of the situation is if you take your own life, you're actually, you're tapping out. You're being the
And some people want to tap out because they've had enough. I can understand the
right.
frustration. You know what I mean? So,
I'm just saying
uh,
it doesn't serve the purpose of what you think, right?
no,
Because you end up
no,
hurting anybody else,
dude.
all of your friends and family for years,
Yeah,
decades.
those
It
waves never
haunts
stop
them. Yeah.
crashing, and that it always will. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, and if you guys are on, that path, and you need somebody to reach out, I mean, we're always here. That's just how it's going to be, and then there are professionals. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
call a helpline. Don't be afraid to go see therapist, and whatever you need to be able to submit and really submit your will is more brave when you don't have the ability to say, I need this help. Like, that's the hardest thing really for a human being to do, and there's so many options out there to get that help. But for some reason, our own ego and shame or embarrassment is the final blockade from us making the proper choice. How do we put that ego and that shame aside and say, me asking for help is bravery, not weakness? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know it's cliche, the old adage of one day at a time, but I mean, it really is. If you
It
can,
is. You can't
yeah,
stack more than that, bro, because you got to battle back. You know what I mean?
yeah. I was gonna say, I tried, when I was in my early 20s, I read a lot of Carnegie self-help books growing up when I was a kid, just because mental problems. My dad would have you read a book, let's have you read some books and how we come up with different strategies on how to deal with the emotions.
Mhm.
But the one of the books I read was Stop Worrying and Start Living. And that talks about just living in day type compartments, right? You can't go backward, you can't go forward, you can only live in the current day you're in.
Sure.
So
Yeah, yeah, and I think stoicism adds to that, of like, now even in that current day that you're in, what stigmas and what triggers or whatever that would normally send you on a certain path can you release and say, you don't have any hold over me. I am in control of what I react to and how I react. And if I find myself overreacting, I then take inventory and go, why am I fucking selling for this? Like, no, you're not going to have that power over me. And that's the cruel Anunnaki experiment of our minds, or whatever they did to do that.
yeah.
So yeah, it's the best and worst part of being a human. you know
All right. Start with some stories here. Report WWE production head Lee Fitting was fired by ESPN over misconduct allegations. This story came out this week. I like to disclaim that I'm an employee of the Walt Disney Company, and my opinions do not represent that company itself.
Right.
Earlier this year, WWE announced that it hired former ESPN executive Lee Fitting to serve as the wrestling promotion's new head of media and production, with a wave of noticeable changes to the company's shows taking place in the weeks after. However, the Atlantic report alleges he also has a checkered past. Fitting was reportedly fired by ESPN after reportedly displaying a pattern of inappropriate behavior at work. Sounds like the WWE. Based on interviews with many current or former ESPN employees who worked with Fitting, the executive had a habit of making sexual or demeaning jokes, fostered an environment that encouraged others to do the same, and alienated those who pushed back. Well, I think we know why he got hired by WWE.
You're hired, pal. That's a hell of a resume.
Exactly. Well, actually, the article does say, though Fitting has an impressive resume. Numerous examples of Fitting's behavior were presented, including allegations that Fitting instructed college game day production crew members to look for hot women in the crowd that they could put on TV. Okay, I'm going to defend him on that one. Every company does that. They want
Yeah,
good-looking people, guys or girls, because
sure.
they want you to look at it and go, "Oh, those people go to the game. Maybe I can go to the game too, and I'll meet them anyway." This is where it gets kind of disgusting. Asking employees if they want to get a hotel with them, continuously commented on the physical appearance of his coworkers, and also resembling the culture of a college fraternity. This guy basically made the story
So
comes.
hold on a second. He wants to get hot girl shots. So you're like, okay, this guy's trying to pull 19-year-old college trap and
Right.
see what he can and also sex sells and da da da. But that's what he's got an eye for. But then he's asking those same people on the team, which would seem to be males, because you're gonna go to females on your team, and be like, get hot chicks, right? Like
It's true.
maybe, but the chances are less. But then that same guy is inviting people on his team to share a hotel room with him. So he's just open, like for open season on whoever at this point is a predator. Just trying to paint a picture of like, are you a closeted gay man, but you also are a narcissist megalomaniac who wants to force himself on young girls? Like, which way is it? Usually both of those like types of predator don't coincide, you know what I mean? The old guy who likes the young tang versus the bearded closeted gay guy who you know yeah, what have you. And by beard I mean married. not not stooging myself. You know, like all that shit that goes hand in hand with that side of the secrecy. So, I don't know. That's interesting. But at the end of the day, he was released for those things from ESPN, was he not?
Yeah, in 2023, Human Resources initiated a firing that of August that year. So.
And they thought it was a great hire, knowing that.
Or he didn't tell them like that information. I maybe didn't come to light in regards to the
I
sexual
think
allegation.
if you're
But you would think we're in the same
yeah,
state.
yeah,
Like we're
if
only
you're
an
at
hour
that
or two
level,
away.
who hired him, TKO or WWE?
It would have been WWE 2023, probably.
Interesting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which makes me further go, how far back does his relationship with McMahon's go, or is this a first encounter?
Yeah, the story comes as WWE remains in the midst, of course, of its own sexual allegation. We know about the Janelle Grant stuff and whatnot. So there you go. First story on the docket today. WWE, unfortunately, making
Yeah, well, I
hires
want
that
to
are.
know, is he buddies with Vince? Is this an Epstein Island level? Hey, we all like
I
to do
think there
some
might.
side stuff, you know what I mean? Or is this like, I got fired from ESPN, I have the credentials to go work for WWE, I got hired? That's a different look in my mind, as opposed to having known McMahon's for maybe 20 years or something. You know, like they wanted to get stuff done over there, and they go out and party, and then he's out on the jet with Vince. Is that how it went down, or is it just as simple as corporate headhunters getting you a job at another big sports entertainment gig? It could be as simple as that. I just think those stories and lack of journalism. I mean, I'm no Meltzer or Sap myself, but those would be interesting follow-ups, because it makes the pattern of behavior either independent or in a bigger cloud or underground secret of, you know, moving teenage girls across fucking borders.
Yeah. To wrap that up, it said after Fittings' dismissal, one of the women questioned during the ESPN investigation said, quote, it finally caught up to him. Fittings' work at WWE has been widely praised, and the company made sure its audience is aware of it by including his name along with head creator Paul Levesque in the production credits at the end of every show. Ah, that's interesting. So his name popped up there, and people then were
now
like,
game is super hot that this story's out there, because they tried to get that over of like, you know how we're going to get an Emmy? By making our shows like a TV show, and at the end we need credits to put up there. And Paul Levesque will be the first guy to get an Emmy as best director of an action sports show, and Fitting's name will be there too. And how did Fitting get to that level of Levesque in 1 year?
that guy moves.
But now this heat drops, and your name is who? There's only 2 producer names at the end of the show. It's not like they have a scrolling, you know, with all the key grip.
Yeah.
You might see that now to lighten the load. But since they've been doing it, it's boom, those 2. So guess who you're tied to again? Not only is your father-in-law accused of, fecophilia simulated rapes and has 19 NDAs, but the dude who's your executive producer with you, I didn't know any of this was going on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. Another story here. Booker T. I don't know if you saw this last week. Within the last week itself, Tessa Blanchard has returned to TNA.
Yeah.
So Booker T has commented. And this was speaking on the Hall of Fame show. He said he looked back on the distaste of the promotion's decision to have Blanchard win the Impact title in 2020, which we thought was a bad idea at that point too. When they did that, I was the first one against it. I said that was the worst decision. That was the worst decision TNA has ever made. And guess what? I was 100% right. Blanchard defeated Sami Callihan in January 2020 to become the promotion's new champ. Booker T went on to say, there are lines that we don't cross because those lines, sometimes we can't cross back over. That's the way I see it. Regardless of the initial decision to put the title back on Blanchard, the situation didn't end up working. Obviously, as we saw, she left during COVID, didn't come back. Your thoughts, though, on Tessa Blanchard returning? There's a lot of people who are upset. A lot of people are excited.
Yeah. Well, I don't, a couple things to even back up to about just the wrestling bullshit. And I know Sami Callihan pretty well, worked a lot with him in 2CW. Awesome. Him and Havoc, great people. Some of my favorite stuff I did was with Jay Have. But the way that Tessa beat Sami clean was wrong. Like if Sami had heat with somebody else to come in and clean Sami's clock and she steals one, or they even drape her over and wins, but they wanted to do women's evolution, revolution, a man can beat a woman, da da da, da, and now that's wrestling is bullshit.
Women's
You know what I mean?
evolution, a man can beat a
Yeah,
woman,
yeah,
the head of the company can date a man. Sorry, a woman. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, exactly, right? So, like that was what they were on, and then she gets exposed as the carny worker that she was raised to be, with racist barbs or whatever in Japan, and and cancel culture comes back and smashes her, and she's done and goes to Mexico. And I listened to Conan's take on it, and he even puts over that she was immature, rude to him, thought she was over because she was married to Daga, and just running her mouth, like not staying small and fucking being humble. So when somebody goes, how was she in Mexico? They can go, dude, I didn't have any problem with her. Instead, the pattern of behavior continues, kind of. But then she's canceled for pretty much 5 years, right? And cancel culture now itself is canceled. So all the things that were empowerment that were really just marketing ploys, let's be honest, at the end, all these social huge changes are nothing more than a way for woke culture to bleed their way into marketing and make money off of emotional reactions. That's what
No, you're right. I mean, because and I don't want to take us down a different topic here, but I don't know if you recently saw the last 48 to 72 hours, Disney canceled the quote unquote transgender storyline in one of their upcoming shows or movies or whatever it is
yeah.
because and their comment was we believe that the parents should be the ones to tell their kids about this. So it's sounding
A
like
lot of
it's
DEI hire. They won't be able to fire all the DEI hires. And I'm not saying those people are incompetent, but they have an agenda that doesn't serve the audience and the demographic that they should be producing for.
right.
Instead, they're trying to force feed you narratives that are marketed social narratives of now and don't fit a story that you're trying to tell. And then you're like, okay, I got to serve this up to my kid with a spoonful of what you think they should be learning. And like,
Well,
there's blowback on that, right?
I
So,
think that notion links to what you're saying though, right? That's tipping back over to the other
yes, the
side.
pendulum swings back, and the I don't want to say left or right because it's a uniparty. It's all ridiculous. But
Yeah.
you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? And then the other side goes, "What the fuck are you doing that far down? We agreed on a neutral ground of some, you know, I understand what you want, da da da." But then all of a sudden you're like, "Nope, I'm going way left with it." Okay, we're gonna reel it back, and then it goes way right. But it just course corrects, and they can't get rid of these DEI hires because they'll be completely in lawsuit, civil rights, like nightmares. But when their contracts run out, you will see almost all of these affirmative action underqualified versus other people who care about the art and not the social contract of where we are in society, you know what I mean, at that point in time, and pushing those ever changing narratives. That's not gonna make Star Wars better. It's not gonna make your Disney princess beloved by a certain minority. You know what I mean? Like, like, how far are we gonna go? I'm down for Polynesians with Moana have their own, and
Right.
Arabs can, I guess, even though it's still pretty stereotypical. Look at Aladdin or whatever. Everyone's got their own Disney princess to represent. But then
And
are
there's
we
nothing
gonna?
wrong with that. There's nothing
No,
wrong with
but
that.
are
Yeah.
we gonna drill down to be like? I just think of Tiger Woods, right? He's African American. Is he? I'm not sure what Asian he is and part white. Like, are we gonna have subdivision princesses that are now conglomerate of the, like, how far do you want to go? That's what I'm saying. Give them an inch, take a mile. Like, it
Right.
will never be enough, right? It'll never be enough.
I will
And then
watch. I will.
it turns out that the princess was really the prince and transitioned into the princess. Like, are we gonna, like, that's where it was going? Like,
Yeah.
that's how far it was gonna go. And now when people start really voting with their dollars or canceling their app and don't go to their parks and don't want to, or they acquire a major franchise like Star Wars and they just brutalize it because they put in this woman that wanted to put all these themes in, and your whole hardcore fan base is like, fuck you, I'm done with you. Like, you got to get rid of them, but they can always play that discrimination card, so you got to wait till the contract's up to future endeavor them.
Yeah, and the sad part about, I mean, just this kind of also ties, I think, to like people who are you mentioned Star Wars, people who are fans of comic book movies and stuff like that. Like a lot of the fans are not upset about Disney. We'll use them, Disney, Marvel, introducing more female strong characters. It's more along the lines of we're rewriting the characters. So it's like we don't need to rewrite them. Just bring out the strong female characters you've already established for the last 40, 50 years, right? And
I'm
make them
down
part
for
of the
strong female characters.
Yeah.
Kill Bill's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like that, the Tarantino Kill Bill character of Beatrice is, even the rest of the women on the hit squad.
Monster with Charlize Theron. That's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not like we don't want strong women characters. I don't want the rewrite that Princess Leia and the other lady fucking, like, they're the ones that the whole.
We actually found out that Leia and Luke were half step brothers and sisters, so now they can get it on. It's okay.
Right. But like if I'm in the rebellion and I'm going, hold on, I gotta rely on these three ladies who are crying all the time to beat evil. We're fucked, boys. I'm going to fucking, I'm Ewok Village. You can find me hanging out in the woods, dog, if you need me. Like, that's when they do that stuff. Like, it's just so blatant. You've now ruined the story. You've made it for a demographic that isn't even asking for that stuff, that isn't even really spending money on your stuff. But you think, what, you're going to recruit them and alienate everybody else? That's an asinine business model.
Oh, I agree. All right.
And then now they do too. It just takes them 3 years of trying to hold on to it. Like, you know who was the last one that just got super fucked by it and came to the party way too late, where the record comes off the needle? You saw what happened to Budweiser with their fucking stupidity. And now they course corrected and got Shane Gillis, the most neutral right white guy, you know what I mean, back to frat days comedian, doing their stuff. M&M's gave up on the gay Eminem and and to like try and put all that. Everyone's given up on it, and like they know that is millions of wasted dollars in marketing if you go that route anymore. Like, it's only going to be blowback from middle America against your company if you're trying to push a narrative. Jaguar says, hold on a minute. Let me blow $200 million on a marketing campaign that is absolutely going to fucking have people go, fuck you. Like, they couldn't have come in at the more tail end.
What are they advertising in those commercials? Like, how's that a car commercial?
Like, dude, like, that shows you how stupid the people at the top are. I say this all the time. People are like, they talk ratings and they want to talk the decisions that CEOs make and whatnot. That's how fucking dumb they are, how in their own little bubble they are, and thinking that they control the conversation. And like, I hope their stock gets crippled because of it. So to be an absolute like example of what not to do in business classes in the future. Like
shout out to the actors who got a national commercial payday, but
I guess
they don't care. They're just catching their check and going home.
yeah. Yeah, man, for sure.
All right, so let's see here. Next story I had here, a couple different ones. Let's go here with this one. Fightful Select has learned another TNA deal is coming to an end shortly. Many contracts on the TNA roster are set to expire at the end of 2024, including stars such as Jordan Grace, Kushida, and Trent Seven. Among the list is former WSW Women's Champion Steph DeLander, who has been out of action. Fightful explained that there's some interest in TNA bringing DeLander back when healthy enough to compete. I don't even know who this lady is, Steph DeLander. Do you know who Steph? Okay,
no.
Yeah. Apparently, she's been signed with TNA since 2023. However, it's possible she could consider returning to NXT, especially due to the strength of the women's division at the moment. Fightful noted that they haven't received any timeline on when DeLander's potential return could be. She apparently went through hip surgery this past October and will be available to return next year. So, I mean, this kind of parlays though to Jordan Grace. I was going to point out connected to the Tessa Blanchard stuff because apparently Jordan Grace didn't want Tessa Blanchard back, but I guess part of the deal is Jordan Grace's contract is coming to an end, so maybe she's going to do right. And
yeah, you got to believe Jordan Grace is going to NXT. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that I'm sure that weighs in. Those are going to be heat with them. Whatever. Like, do business. Brett and Sean had heat. They still did business. You tell me Tessa and fucking Jordan are more over
Punk
than
and Rollins right now. You know,
they're more over than Brett and Sean. They may be over more than Punk and Rollins, but yeah, like that's just part of what we do in this shit. I'm sure a lot of people, especially younger guys, resented me. In fact, I know, and just because it's wrestling, I know they did, and other guys did too. But they're not going to out-politic me in the locker room, and then I know my stuff plays. They're just doing it to be whiny, grumpy-faced bastards. And if you got one muscle woman leaving, you need a spot for another one. So that's just the way a booker has to look at it. And I was going to say, Conan said this too. He's like, how with this cancel culture, what? We're going to say nobody can ever work again? How long does it take before like the probation is lifted off of being able to try and apply your trade and craft? Why isn't Marty Scurll allowed to come and do it? And really, Tessa Blanchard going back may open the door for Marty Scurll to be able to get an opportunity, because it's really setting a standard to return from cancel culture that never really should have had a hold over your career to start with. And this is another thing too. It pisses me off. Like even recently, and they stayed small after this, but Blitzkrieg Pro, fucking canceling Jake Hager because he's more right before the election because he's more right wing or what have you. Dude, bullshit. Dude. Like you can make somebody off of him if you have a left leaning person. There's no better person to have heat than Hager. And just these indie promoters who want to act like they fucking know what's going on and they cancel it. Meanwhile, your entire company is named after a Nazi kill tactic of fast strikes. But we're super woke and leftist, but let's name our company after a fucking Nazi attack method. Oh, okay. All right. Like the hypocrisy and the idiocy doesn't end. And they just won't stick their head up when they know they're caught like that. But they wanted the pats on the back from the GCW crowd to be like, see, we fucking got one of them. And the crowd rules. We say who gets to work and who doesn't. Second, you give up that power, you are fucked, bro. Like to that audience. We dictate what the storyline is. To see Sami Zayn in a fucking ring while Syria is doing stupid stuff and Usi and all that, while Syria is being destroyed, and we could have an MJF or somebody else and fucking have Israel Syria in the ring at the same time. But in the meantime, we got to do these stupid wrestling angles because we've dictated that our show's TVG. Like that's terrible to me because I come from the school of the work can handle anything if you approach it with the proper respect, right? Like, or your characters, do you play to the height of your audience's intelligence? No, you play to the height of your character's intelligence, emotional and educational intelligences. But we don't even come close to scratching the surface because the last time we did that, um, Muhammad Hassan got banned from whatever, right? But it's fine to bring back Apollo Crews as a Nigerian or Kofi Kingston as a Jamaican. But when you want to really touch on something that's happening where people could live vicariously through it, or Gunther's like a German Russian, like World War II, like we're scratching the surface of it. And now Nakamura is a fucking shogun from 680 AD. Like what are we? Like how long until he comes down with a fucking bomber glasses on and he's going to be a kamikaze pilot? Like, you act like we can't touch on these stereotypes, but then when you get backed in a corner creatively, they go right back to whatever the Looney Tunes era fucking, this is what we think of Japanese people, this is what we think black people from Africa are like this is what we think gay guys gotta, would you be in my musical? Like, you're right. Like they're trying to do. They had Lin-Manuel Miranda in the crowd 4 weeks ago, and they did nothing with them and the dudes who are looking for a musical. Like you have a multi-time Tony Award-winning director, musical writer, and the other guys get nothing with them whatsoever. Like they couldn't miss more. And the thing that really made me sick, and it's not just smashing on WWE, the Tony Storm like miss is it really tried to sell for anything in wrestling, but like you couldn't have had more gold and flushed it down the toilet than that. I think in my 20 and they really in my 40 years of wrestling, of watching, performing, whatever, studying it, I think that is one of the most the biggest travesty, the biggest miss in creative history of what could have been, should have been, and never will be now. That fucking turns my stomach as a creative, bro.
Not change subject. Alex Anderson with the $20 super chat. Thanks, Alex.
Wow.
Says
Double A, man. Merry Christmas, pal.
He says, Merry Christmas, gents. I wanted to say I took my nephew and son, 11 and 8, to a UPW show in Raleigh. They both said it was a great time, better than the WWE live experience, as they got the fan interaction. Great experience. Have you heard of them, Ben? UPW.
UPW, that sounds familiar to me. In Raleigh.
Yeah.
So GGP works Virginia. I think I've seen
Virginia Championship Wrestling.
I think I had him on my old Facebook that's now torched by Zuck. Like as follows, so I see their posters come up and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about Hardy Boys country, right? So plenty of guys that want to get seen, and that I think that's a pretty strong territory between. Once you go below Louisville and OVW and Tennessee is kind of the dividing line. So
United Pro Wrestling, he says they have Trevor Lee is there as well.
Trevor, well, I mean, there you go. I mean, guy's fucking A+ worker, knows how to get over with the gimmick. And then again, another guy who got way over in NXT, and then they did what with him on the main roster. He can make anybody look good. Kind of whatever the steampunk Carney thing was he was doing with the hat, he was trying to get it over. I've been a fan since Big Ray and I were watching him in Impact. He's just got great fundamentals and great character. Meanwhile, that don't mean shit in WWE because I see girls getting main events where they shouldn't even be on TV. They're not ready to even be on TV. Or we come up with a stupid Pure Fusion Collective or whatever the fuck it is, right? To like get them back out there when this guy has got more money written on him. So sometimes that's the best thing that can kind of happen to reignite your creative abilities. Like he might have been hamstrung and told no, or it's not your time, or your shit got canceled. And I know he was really emotionally hurt, I think, when he got released because he loves his business and you work your ass off to get to that point and then to never get to maybe the spot you saw yourself in. Really what they would have done with if they kept him was put him in the Y at 6. That they wouldn't have fucking done much else with him, and he probably would have got clipped after that. But now he might be running UPW, and it's almost all his ideas for other guys. And
Right.
this worked here, and I can now take this knowledge of WWE and put it on there. And guess what? Now I look like a great trainer, which some great performers are even better trainers, and maybe he can get UPW or the WWE ID stamp, and he can be the guy
Right.
to, like this goes back to what I was saying earlier. You never know where life's going to lead you. You might think while you're in the eye of the fucking shitacane that this is it for me, but that might not, that might be chapter 1 of your story and where you're going to go. And while it's going down and it sucks and you're released or whatever, boom. But now you also don't have all that holding you back. You have complete freedom to go to UPW, do what you want to help get somebody over. So I hope that he has the book there. I hope that he has a big hand in everything that's going on, because that's a guy without ever having working with him, I respect his performance and I respect his ability to change characters if need be and make it work. That shows me no matter what you give him, he's going to make it work. It's very Stevie Richards, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an artist. You give me a tuba, I'm going to get you something out of it.
To change subjects from wrestling here, here on the Friday Locker Room, and for many years, Bin Hameen, you've pointed out the craziness that happens within the world. You might like to use the term psyop, or it's a plant. Did you see the picture of Luigi Mangione being escorted by cops, SWAT members? Basically, he looked like he was Thanos from a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 15, 20 people escorting him. Like,
Yeah.
what? I mean, this picture that they set up, this picture op. I mean, I don't know if you saw it. What are your thoughts on the propaganda, I guess, being pushed out with a picture like that?
Just to get people talking over here
The
while we
distraction.
do a bunch of shit over here.
While they're trying to not shut down the government over here, right?
Yeah. Which government?
True.
You're right. Like, that's exactly what it is. Sensationalism. Um, I mean, it's a hot story. People want to talk about it. It's going to keep people wired to CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Like, that's he's really a uniter, no matter how they spin it, right? Like, if you're a producer, you're like, this is going to get people to watch, and that's all you really care about. You're not caring about, let me give an unobjective opinion with the facts and let them, it's all commentators, and like, how dare people say he's a hero? Well, he's a murderer. Like, they just want that divisiveness out of it. Meanwhile, they fucking smash through Syria on their way to Iran, and there's drones that no one is still giving an answer.
We don't know what they are. Yeah.
This guy over here, everybody like, so, I was a manager for a lot of years. I know a jump up misdirection spot when I see one, and the guy's got 16 cops around him. He weighs 160 pounds. He's fucking shackled feet and hands. You need about 4, unless you're going to have somebody run up and do a fucking Jack Ruby on him, which wouldn't make much sense at this point either. So there's so much with this guy that is now concocted, and it smells like a work, feels like a work. Where's his handlers? How did he know the guy was going to be there on the street at that time? And where was he during these 3 months of possibly reconditioning to turn him into this shooter? Because everything leading up to that doesn't seem to be. And why is there still no information about the Trump shooter? Both of them really. Is when
That's
it comes
true.
down to
Yeah.
all,
What
all
happened to
3
those
of them. I
guys?
mean, yeah, and the chances are they're all part of the same program with similar handlers, and the fact that we don't talk about it or see it or know who's behind it in investigation. Again, when they say nothing, it says more. When they come with a innocuous, meaningless fucking, um, we don't know if they're hobbyist drones. They're not. I'll tell you, the Department of Defense knows they're not military. Oh, really? Then what do they know? Whose are they? Well, don't worry about it. It's not going to be. Oh, okay. Like, everything you're not saying tells me you're a fucking fully functioning lying psychopath. that you think we're children and we can't handle what the truth really is, when all we want is the truth, so we can at least trust in a system that we've put in place to pay for, and not just be like, well, we'll see what they're going to do without Mahomes this week. Like, fuck, fuck that life, dude. Like, we're past that, and they still don't want to understand. It's very much Jaguar marketing, right? They're way behind. They should be out in front of it with the truth, uniting the people through that real information for the first time. Da da da. Yeah, here's who killed JFK, and here's who's flying the drones, and here's what we're gonna do about it. Like, that would get a unified country, and that's really what they don't want. And you want to talk about more rough waters ahead. That when as soon as deportation starts, it's going to get real ugly real quick. So I would want to find a way to keep yin and yang in balance before that happens. And this doesn't seem like that's what they want to do.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing you said, that to go back to wrestling, the young lady who I don't remember her name that you said re-signed with Impact. She had hip surgery and she's re-signing to take bumps. Dude, I was wondering how old she is. Like, how old are you and you're getting hip surgery? That's bad news, Brown, dude. Like, I took a bump on my hip just in that match in Canada, and I was fucked up for 3-4 days off it afterwards, and I haven't had surgery on my shit. So she's going to have to learn to work a completely new way. The other part of that was a lot of people have left Impact since the Scott D'Amore, or aren't renewing, with their
Yeah.
contracts. Josh Alexander, you name some others, that have a good amount of money on them. As far as I'm concerned, could definitely be Impact players other places. Why are they leaving, and who is in charge, and how is it going? Those are things that we haven't really heard about, the state of the locker room or the creative. I mean, you can listen to the Impact Attack, obviously, but again, there's like a weird silence when you see people leaving. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah. So did you by chance, I know it's been a crazy week, but did you by chance get to see or read anything from the school shooter, the shooting that happened in Wisconsin?
I had just seen a thing on Twitter that the boyfriend allegedly had put out, and saying that the girl wasn't, like, right away. They're like, "Guess who's the trans shooter?" And they're like, "No," but there was some weird stuff of like her changing her name and saying that in a manifesto that uh, she was super inspired by the shooters in Europe, and things along those lines. So I don't know. People are like, "Oh, these other ones are fake, but this one's real," based on reports of people on the ground that knew it. But there's things like, I mean, you could go through the last dozen of them, and I would say there's questionable data and fucking testimonies and revisionist history of most of it, from whether you would go back to the Batman shooting, to Parkland, to S Hook, to Vegas, to fucking, like, I can't even name them all at this point, like, and it always has to be around the time. Look over here, something bigger over here, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I haven't seen it reported like on actual websites. I did see it on X, and I managed to save it before it probably got removed. But there was a manifesto put out by this girl, and I'm not going to sit here and read all 2 pages of it. But to sum it up, it seems like it's a very young person, unhinged individual who grew up in an environment where I don't know, hate was predicated in the home, because she makes a lot of racist or derogatory remarks in the manifesto itself. She talks about her parents not loving her. It seems like a very mentally, potentially emotionally abused young lady who snapped and decided to go to school and hurt people because they were trying to gather attention for their own pain. So If you want to find it, or if you want, go. You could probably still find it on X. It's called like War Against Humanity, and she does like 2 pages of it. Again, I don't want to read all of it, but she says something like the revolution should be well, the population should be well, but it's not and never will be. I want to change that, but will I truly? Says some racist things, blah blah blah.
That doesn't seem like the id of a 15-year-old.
Well, I mean, if you read it all, I mean, I could read it all if you want.
No, I understand. Like, referencing other MK Ultra shooters seems very in the program to me.
Okay.
Like I really study these things. Who does really? You know what I mean? What 15-year-old is way into it? Like, I don't, and maybe I'm wrong. It just, to me, these things stick out when they really push that or get that out there, and it's that convenient to fit a narrative. There was you should have seen what was written on the bullets of the Luigi's, like shit, like all these little Hollywood extras. Like, to me, smells like a work, dog.
Who knows here? All right. Well, I mean, I don't really have anything other than WBD announcing the details on their partnership.
Yeah. Do you know what the Dynamite number was this week or no?
600,000, something like that. I saw AEW Awful posted.
Yeah, I just feel like this is, and
630, 640,000.
Meltzer's like, anybody who says they're not going to be profitable in 2025 is just a hater and trying to bring them down, and they don't know anything about that. I'm going, whatever, man. Like, just because, like I said, a CEO might assign them to a profitable deal from now, like what they've lost in the past, they think they can just wipe that clean, doesn't mean that they're over. It means that CEO is foolish and doesn't understand what they're getting themselves into, what they're buying, another lemon. And like I said, with the destruction of that Tony Storm storyline, which was the only thing worth watching on the entire show, aside from the Outrunners. Really, and shout out the Outrunners. They've got their micro brawlers out for the next 2 weeks on Pro Wrestling Tees. Very limited edition. I know I'm going to get mine because I definitely want to have that of my boy Shiloh. So aside from those 2 acts, there's nothing on that show worth watching or even talking about. And if they're not talking about you, it's the end of the line, dude. If they're only talking about your number and how bad it is and not one creative storyline or anything that is must see, this company is already done for. It has been. And I did see that they went to a smaller arena and it was full, like 3,000 people.
Finally.
And I'm sure the energy was better. I'm sure it looked good. I hope. And I'm not like, they're done, fuck them. I hope that continues and we have 3,000 seaters and we have to turn people away until we get to 4 and 5 again. You know what I mean? But to do 16,000 and draw 2,500, we cannot do that anymore. But this is the time for baby booking and baby promoting. Like, learning these lessons is far past. You have to understand this in your first 2 years. And it's not just heat on Tony, it's heat on CEOs too, or VPs rather. Sorry, CEOs too. And the bloated roster, way overpaid for, with talent that isn't worth 1/10 of probably what you're paying them. Like all that's a huge problem that must be course corrected if you ever are going to turn this into a profitable company. And you need to give up the creative book fully because you just don't understand how to get heat, how to take a character through the emotional journey up the mountain and back down only to go back up again, or just investing in guys to do spots that have no emotion attached to them. Like, what have you gotten from Ricochet? Zero. You like the fact that he was out of WWE was going to make a difference to do what?
I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, it doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Like, for what I see in my crystal ball ahead.
And on a positive note, we forgot to mention it last week, but at Lights Out XF21, our own bulletproof Blake Truth became the
Yeah.
heavyweight champion via second round Von Flue choke as he
Wow.
second round submission. So Lights Out, new heavyweight champ, bulletproof Blake Truth. So shout out to
yeah,
you.
man. Boy, I'd hate to get fucking caught in a Von Flew by that guy. Strong son of a bitch, no doubt.
I just think it's really cool because I posted on my Facebook when I went to AEW Revolution and I met up with my buddy Chris, who does the connecting people to wrestling.
Yeah,
Bulletproof.
I saw him Saturday Night Main Event ringside, right?
Okay. Yeah, he's there exactly, and he was just also he's down. You know, another big wrestling promotion that's apparently getting some headway. Indie promotion out in Florida is Boca Raton Championship Wrestling (BRC)
Okay.
dub.
I think, and shout out to John Hartnett. I think he's worked for him, possibly. He worked a lot of indies there, and it was just John's birthday too, which was canceled.
It was canceled. But yeah, he was just out there. But I remember seeing Blake outside the venue handing out flyers for a indie wrestling show. So he went from grinding in front of a venue to heavyweight champ now. So
it's called work ethic.
But the work
and even when you're champ, you're gonna have to grind like that because your people want to support you, and we got to carry that momentum. And then when you got the belt and you're at the merch table and they see your people, and then more people will trickle over, that's more money. It's all when you bring your fans in that are more global than just your indie guys, now those guys should be thanking you that you're bringing that house to them. But most of the time, those guys be like, well, what the fuck? What am my shot? When we all make money together, that's the short sightedness in wrestling of how petty locker rooms can be. But Blake's above that, and you ain't gonna say shit to him because he'll fucking choke your ass out. So definitely put in all the work. That put in the work to be. You know what he is to me? The MMA versus the football. He's got so much Pat McAfee energy to him when it comes to being on commentary or in the wrestling side of it with NWA. Like he just comes through the camera in a very McAfee kind of way to me, and has all the credibility in the fight sport to back anything up that he says. So I'm happy for him, and I can't wait to see who his next opponent is.
Before we go, actually, another story popped up. Maddie Adele asked, "Did they bring up JBL's comments on Vince Russo?" So, a story that popped up.
I had seen the thumbnail, but I didn't click on it. But I guess it was about Brawl for All, and he's saying Vince is full of shit or something.
Yeah, just to wrap up most of it, he said for years Russo's been well, actually, I'm sorry. He said as far as being true on the Brawl for All, he said that for years. That's 100% bullshit. Nobody at the time thought this was true. Talk to Bruce, talk to Bob Holly, talk to Butterbean. No one at the time thought that this was true. Now, if it was true, Conrad, first of all, let's address that statement. Okay. There's so much in this. There's so much that's in this, bro. That's so much that's in this, bro, that we got to talk about, bro. So the statement itself, we had two UFC champions in our dressing room. I'm saying I can whoop the world, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it goes on anyway. Yeah, essentially just says that Russo did not come up with the idea for Brawl for All. On his heat with Russo, he says, for years, Russo has been trying to make a living off saying stuff about me. And I never said anything about him. I've never talked about the guy. I don't bring him up. I don't bash him in public. But then he goes on Dark Side of the Ring and makes up all this stuff. It was so bad. Godfather called me and said, hey, man, you won't believe this. What has Russo got against you? You know, Godfather never heard anything of that. He called me and told me the whole thing to Russo. He said, tried to make this whole spill and make me out to be the bad guy to cover up for his failure. And I don't know. I guess it's his way of dealing with it.
I mean, it's as simple as this. Vince will do a show with anybody. So, like, especially one of the made boys. So, if you want to go and get a hot take with Conrad, and be with Bruce and the rest of them and toe the line and stay on that side where you know where the bodies are buried. He's a high-level mafia guy. He fucking knows, seen it for 3 decades at WWE, 4 decades, really. So
I not to interject, one thing I do want to point out, which I find a ridiculous statement he made in this. He said, I told you last week, he said the Texas thing. He hated Texas. He tried to get me to talk without a Southern accent. Says Ed Ferrara sat down with me and tried to teach because he thought anybody who talked with a Southern accent sounded stupid. So he didn't want Me to do any promos. We used to go out there on live TV. He'd give us promos. This is where this is. Ron would do one line and then hand me the microphone because Russo didn't want me to talk because he hated Southern accents. And then he goes on to say, "quote I guess he hated JR and Stone Cold Steve Austin too." That's a ridiculous statement. I'm sorry, JBL. Come on.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. That I might put over because I get twinged when I hear, "Hey man, how y'all doing down there, man?" That fucking deep Kentucky backwoods accent.
I know, but to say you didn't want Stone Cold Steve Austin to talk, I mean,
well, that's what he's saying. I'm like, oh, I guess he didn't like them either. You know what I mean? Like, I know how New Yorkers could be, so it's not like I'm not trying to be like JBL's telling the truth. I could just at the same time, but then Vince has got the most harsh New York accent, which I'm sure grates.
How you doing?
Southerners as much, and that's maybe why the Civil War was fun. But
maybe
the way I think about this is if he's saying bullshit, he didn't come up with it. We had UFC guys in the back. Cool. Well, then all the haters
should be
Russo, then that's the truth. Russo didn't come up with it, so stop fucking burying him about it. Then which is it? Like you want to have it both ways to bury him on both sides. Somebody's lying, but when it comes down to it, is if he's got heat, let's be fucking men who are in this locker room, and you want to do it with a civilian. I don't care if Conrad's put on shows or not. He's never trained. He's never been in the ring. Just because you married into a family doesn't mean you are in the clique back here. I don't care how many guys they're not gonna ever look at you.
I'm not in the clique, and I know, and I've
right.
More.
So
exactly.
So why wouldn't two guys who can make money off of this? And like I said earlier, everyone has their own truth. You might paint one guy as the evil villain of doing it, and they both might be guilty of this, JBL and Vince, and not understanding the chain of events fully, as opposed to just like, I'm going to rewrite history to fuck those guys over. Like, that's how they look at it, as opposed to, well, here's the situation I was under, and here's what you were under. And yeah, this guy was a catalyst for that, and I took it here and we did that. You might not know all the chain of events, but we're so quick to bang, bang, bang on everybody's stuff, especially from 30 years ago. Dude, try and remember what you did 5 years ago verbatim of how it went down. You know what I mean? The mind is a very fucking ridiculous thing.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for another edition of the Friday Locker Room. You can check out my podcast at
Tony Khan, how are you? Tony Khan just walked in. I'm sorry.
You can check out my podcast at South Park Pod on all podcast outlets, at South Park Pod on YouTube. We just dropped episode 258, Cock Magic. What happens?
You want to tell them to watch Dynamite, Tony?
Well, now starting January 1st, Tony, I'll do the promo for you. Starting January 1st, Tony, you can fucking, Oh, Tony's joining us. Sorry, guys. Hold on.
Coming soon. And then we're on Warner Brothers. And Max, I don't know if you've heard, but we're doing big things here. The crowd's attendance is up by 2%. That means we've gone from 1,500 to 1,507. We're doing good. Things are moving up. That's what everyone likes to hear. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. I'll be in the creative meeting in just a minute.
Hey, I'm pretty, I'm making headway, right? First it went from who's that guy to Max. So I'm getting closer to Tony Khan remembering my name. Check out my podcast, Cock Magic review. What happens when Randy thinks Cock Magic is doing magic with his cock when it's actually Roosters playing Magic the Gathering. So check that out on all podcast outlets everywhere. You can check out the Monday Locker Room, the Wednesday Locker Room, Friday Locker Room. Of course, you're listening here. Jimmy T and the Vet on the weekends for the AEW recaps. Get your next level review with Big Ray and the Vet. I Like It Raw with Jimmy T as well with Big Ray. Shout out to Big Ray. Love you, buddy. Hope you're feeling okay. Big Ray unfortunately lost some family members in the last couple weeks, so he's just been dealing with family stuff. Shout out to Big Ray. Ben Hameen, what's going on this weekend? I mean, obviously Tony Khan's there, but what's going on?
Yeah, I'm just trying to save Rampage, see if we can get them a deal on YouTube. On YouTube. Apparently, there's 45 million viewers on YouTube we can tap into from WWE. But yeah, man, I'm just holding it down here at Ravens Joint all weekend long as we wrap up the rush into Christmas. Sales been up, so I mean, if you guys are coming through on on the way. Please feel free to stop if you're in the Syracuse area. Just look up ravensjoint.com. Also, if you leave a 5-star Google review right now, we're giving away 2 Puffco Peak Pros, which are like $300.
What? Where do I do this shit?
Yeah. Just Ravens Joint, Ravens Joint on Google, and a 5-star review there will get you entered into the competition. We're going to draw on Christmas Eve and New Year's Day, so you got a chance to win. But y'all, infidels, you won today with the Friday locker room. So make sure you get all your gift cards, all of your pathetic little Chinese-made trinkets. Make a big bonfire and throw them all in there, because we're gonna burn it down Christmas style here on the Friday locker room. YOLO.